entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now pushing the limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
What's up, everybody? And it is Happy Wednesday. That's right, it is Hump Day. So glad that you can join us on Pushing the Limits. And certainly a lot to get to today and a lot to go over. We are broadcasting all over the place, man. We're broadcasting on our YouTube page, on the Twitter page, all over social media, of course, on KSHP. And appreciate you being a part of what we do here. A lot to get to, some updates with this Tennessee shooting and the shooter. And of course, right-wing propaganda that you'll hear and see just about everywhere, by the way. And we're going to talk about that. Coming up in hour number 2, he's the grandson of the former governor here, Mr. Kenny Guinn. We're going to be joined by his grandson, Blake. He's hosting a charity poker tournament a little bit later today that I'll be a part of. So he'll be joining us in hour number 2. Might be getting to some Leah Thomas news as well a little bit later on in the program. We'll see about that. But Leah Thomas being honored by ESPN as some sort of hero, which I find ridiculous. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show right now. But, you know, I over the course of the last several days, it's always difficult. And maybe difficult's not a strong enough word to talk about the loss of life, especially when it comes to children. And we're hearing about heroic stories, not just from the police officers who went into that school in Tennessee and Nashville. We're not just hearing about, you know, the heroism of law enforcement, but of course, the people who lost their lives. And I wanted to share this story with you because I think it's important to talk about. The head of the school, and it's difficult to talk about this, but I want to talk about the last moments of her life. Her name, Catherine Kunze, a substitute teacher. I apologize. Catherine Kunze, and she was helping to run the school as well. In the last moments of her life, she was in the middle of a Zoom call. She ended the call abruptly when she heard a gunshot, and she went right towards the shooter in trying to disarm him. It cost her life, but how many lives did she save?
Right.
And she's a hero. And Nashville City Councilman Russell Pulley did an interview with Fox and talked about how he was on that Zoom call with her when she abruptly ended the call. And then moments later, sadly, lost her life. And in the last moments of her life, she was a hero. Those others who lost their lives, besides Kunze, Mike Hill, Cynthia Peak, Evelyn Dickhouse, Haley Scruggs, those young children were 9 years old. And I want to give you a statistic because we're hearing a lot of people out there, sadly, people on the right, and I'll get to them in a moment. They want to make this out to be because this was a transgender person, that transgenders are just killing people left and right with guns and murdering people because they're psychopaths. Because if you listen to Tucker Carlson or Fox News or people on the right, that's what they will lead you out to believe. But facts don't lie, do they, ladies and gentlemen? Because over the past 5 years, only 3 of the estimated 2,840 mass shootings were trans people. Who are, by the way, 1 to 2% of the general population, but only 0.04% of mass shooters. But hey, if you listen to some of these idiots on the right, these clowns, they'll lead you to believe that all these trans people are shooting people left and right. Like Donald Trump Jr., like his father, despicable. Here's what he tweeted yesterday. If someone committed a hate crime atrocity against the trans community, all of corporate America would be up in arms. But when someone from that very protected class shoots up a Christian school, murdering 6, it's crickets or excuses. They despise traditional American values. First of all, I haven't heard any crickets or excuses. Donald Trump Jr. is lying. I haven't heard one Democrat or anybody on the left make an excuse for shooting a bunch of innocent 9-year-old kids. Donald Trump is lying. Donald Trump Jr., like his father, is a liar. Charlie Kirk, who without his high school diploma is a right-wing buffoon, said just 2 days after 6 Christians get murdered in cold blood by a deranged trans terrorist Joe Biden thinks it's a good time to lecture America on the need to invest and protect the LGBTQ individuals. What an utter disgrace this man is to America. No, sir, Charlie Kirk, you are an utter disgrace. You are a homophobic, racist piece of crap. What is wrong with wanting to treat people as equals and protecting those with their sexuality that might be different than yours, you stupid right-wing buffoon? And by the way, is it ever he calls this person a trans terrorist, like being trans has something to do with it. I'll get to that in a moment. Have you ever heard Charlie Kirk call somebody a straight terrorist? Makes absolutely and positively no sense, but you wouldn't expect anything less from Charlie Kirk, would you? How about Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said since the school closures, we've seen a dramatic increase in trans identifying children, which is something that was not normal nor common many years before this. And I think that's completely devastating. Yeah, you dope. The reason why we haven't heard a lot about this before is because of people like you that completely talk down to the trans community constantly. Maybe now some people who are trans are a little bit more comfortable with coming out of who they are. But people like you keep holding them back. That's why. But you wouldn't expect anything less from Marjorie Taylor Greene or those on the fringe right when it comes to trans people, would you? Benny Johnson, another right-wing buffoon on social media, said the Colorado Springs shooter identified as non-binary. The Denver shooter identified as trans. The Nashville shooter identified as trans. But you won't hear from this guy that trans mass shooters are about 0.04% of all mass shooters. You won't hear that from Benny Johnson. You won't get that from Benny Johnson at all. It's absurd. And the attacks on the trans community are disgusting and despicable. 129 mass shootings in America this year. And this is the first one to get the front page of the Metro. When a trans child is killed, the media doesn't seem to want to talk about them being trans, do they? But when a trans man kills people, the first word that they print is trans. Don't you find that interesting? I find that very interesting. Don't you? But let me be very clear on this, because I think this is really important. This is not about drag queens. No, it's not about drag queens. It's not about pot. It's not about drugs. It's not about porn. This is not about trans kids. This is not about video games, like the right would lead you to believe. It's also not about locking doors. And it's definitely not about books, like Rosa Parks' books. You want to protect our children? You want to protect our kids? You want to protect people in this country? Then do something about guns. Do something about gun control. This isn't about drag queens reading books to children. That's not killing our kids in schools. It's not about video games, ladies and gentlemen. No, it's not. And I repeat this again to you right-wing, homophobic, despicable buffoons that you are. And many of you are despicable people. There have only been 3 mass shooters, and listen, 1 is too many. 3 of over 2,800 that were identified as trans. But if you go on social media and to listen to the right-wing echo chamber repugnant fools, they will lead you to believe that this is an epidemic, that trans people are all mentally ill and they're just shooting people in schools. It's not true. And it is a lie. Metro Nashville Police Chief John Drake even said in a press conference this morning that as of right now, they have no indication that there was any problems at the school or at the home with this shooter, and that they can't confirm any type of problems at this time or any actual motive. But if you listen to more right-wing buffoons, they'll call this a hate crime. Not that it matters, because these children are dead and these 3 adults are dead. But there's no evidence right now that police are saying to prove that this trans shooter, as right-wing Republicans would call it, trans terrorist, which is absurd. Terrorist, yes. The fact that she's trans or not makes no sense to the story. There's no evidence that police are saying to show that this was a hate crime or that this was an attack on Christians. This person went to school here, and there's no evidence that there were any issues. That this shooter was obviously mentally deranged and was spraying bullets at anybody that this shooter could find. But if you listen to right-wing buffoons out there, they will lead you to believe that this was a hate crime, it's an attack on Christians. It's funny, I didn't hear these people talking about the shooter in Pittsburgh went into a synagogue. Were they shouting up in arms it was attack on the Jewish community and the rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes? Were they talking about that? No. After the Texas El Paso shooting, when there actually was a manifesto, in that manifesto, that Nazi talking about Donald Trump and attacks on brown people, were they talking about that? Were they talking about white supremacy? No, it was Tucker Carlson that was defending it, saying the idea of white supremacy is a hoax. Weeks after, a white supremacist went into a Walmart in Texas, El Paso, and shot people if they were brown. But you didn't hear Charlie Kirk talking about that. You certainly didn't hear Abbott talking about that. You didn't hear about these right-wing idiots talking about that, or the fact that this was a straight white male. Will you ever hear these Republicans talking about that? Of course not. Why? Because according to Republicans, many of them out there believe that a bigger threat to this country, not guns, transgenders. They're a threat to this country and our way of life. And by the way, I want to go back to what Donald Trump Jr. said, Biff. He said they despise traditional American values. Talking about Democrats. Because in Donald Trump Jr.'s eyes, American traditional values are only people that are straight. Only people that are not transgender. Those are who is he to say, and who are you to say as a Christian what are traditional American values? Screw you. You could keep your American traditional values to yourself, because to some of you, American traditional values can't be gay, can't be transgender. You can't be somebody who's brown or black who attends a Black Lives Matter protest. Oh no, that's not traditional. That's not traditional at all. So I don't really understand what is going on in this country and why Republicans and Democrats can't come together. But maybe I do understand. Maybe I do understand. Maybe, just maybe, if you're a bigot, you hide behind your Christianity. Maybe if you're homophobic, you hide behind your Christianity as an excuse for your bigotry. Because that's what I think many of you are. Many of you on the right that call yourself Christians are bigots. Why? Because you think being gay is a sin. If somebody's sexuality isn't like you, it's a sin, right? Or if you're transgender, by golly, you're just weird. You're just different. And we can't support that lifestyle. And then what will these people do? They'll say, well, that's what the Bible says. It's what my religion says. Let's be very clear on this. When you use your religion as a cop-out for your racism or your homophobia or your bigotry, that's exactly what it is. It's a cop-out. It is a cop-out. Don't want gay people to get married. It's a sin. Transgenders, they're just weird. They're just different. This was a trans terrorist. Why don't they ever use the term straight terrorist, white male terrorist, white supremacist terrorist? They won't use any of those terms, but if it's an opportunity for them to go after the trans community, you're damn well sure they'll take it upon themselves to do so.
Yeah.
That's what they do, and that's what they are continuing to do since the shooting. But I guarantee you, if it's a white supremacist, if it's a white male, because typically in these mass shootings, it's usually a white male in these mass shootings where, more than 5 people are killed. It's usually a white male.
Yep.
After the Buffalo shooting, where a white male, 18 years old, white supremacist, went into a supermarket, tried to kill as many black people as he could. Did you hear these people on the right calling him a white supremacist? Did you hear these people on the right calling him straight white male? No. There's a reason why so many people on the right are attacking the trans community, and I think there are 2 reasons. The first reason is many of them are just full of hate and they're transphobic. That's the first reason. The second reason is, and the more just as important, I should say, is they don't wanna talk about the real issue, which is guns. You wanna talk about mental illness? Fine, I'll talk to you about mental illness. What are your solutions? There are mentally ill people all over the world. When you keep voting against policies that would fund those and give help to mentally ill, you can't say you wanna help mentally ill people. Republicans have voted against constantly funding for those who are mentally ill. You can't say we need to do a better job helping mentally ill people if you don't fund it. Republicans vote against it every year. It's absurd. It's like the baby formula shortage we had. Republicans were blaming Joe Biden for that. And then when Joe Biden and the Democrats put up a bill, Republicans voted against it.
Yep.
You can't say that this is the problem and then vote against it. So stop it with your stupidity when it comes to we need to do a better job in helping the mentally ill. I agree. We do need to do a better job. But it's the Republicans that vote against all these bills to help those that are mentally ill. So shut up. I don't want to hear it. We need to do something about gun control in this country. We've been talking about this for decades. Who are the people that continually vote against gun reform? Republicans. Why? They care more about their A-plus rating from the NRA than doing the right thing. It's constant. I talk about it all the time. There are a lot of issues in this country, both Republicans and Democrats are responsible for. I would say the border crisis, could be taxes, could be issues, poverty, inflation, whatever. You want to talk about a lot of issues facing the country, Republicans and Democrats are responsible. That's an American problem. This is a Republican problem. Democrats have been doing everything they can to push gun legislation to save lives. Remember the Sandy Hook shooting? Barack Obama, he tried to pass gun legislation. Republicans block it. If you ask many Republicans out there, they don't have any solutions. And if they bring up a few, they'll think more guns are the answer, which obviously is absurd. More guns are not the answer. That's absurd. We have more guns in this country than almost any other country in the world. So if your solution is more guns, you're an idiot. That's like saying more drugs are the answer. More illegal drugs are the answer. More fentanyl is the answer. That's how ridiculous that statement is. Well, Brian, we need to arm our teachers. Oh, okay. You don't even trust these teachers with books giving to children. You don't even trust these teachers, when it comes to, you think they're indoctrinating our kids, but you're going to trust them with an AR-15. You people are so ignorant, it's repulsive. But yet you want to arm our teachers, harden our schools. Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. I don't understand how you want to arm your teachers. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about arming your teachers, how do you even know that the teachers you have in your classrooms are safe enough to even have these guns? How do you know that this won't even happen at home? Because we do have all these different scenarios that are playing out over social media worldwide where teachers are fighting kids. Teachers are getting upset with kids. Teachers are trying to punish their kids. How can you trust the teacher with a gun when you can't even trust psychos out in the street? It makes no sense.
I think, Kevin McCarthy is a coward. And, Kevin McCarthy didn't even want to talk about this issue the last couple of days. He wouldn't talk to the media. He finally made some statements today. You want to talk about somebody with no backbone, who is a complete coward. So Kevin McCarthy finally made a few brief statements today. Guess what he said? He said, we must see all the facts. We must see all the facts. In other words, he doesn't want to talk about gun legislation and doing something about this. We already have enough facts to know that something needs to be done. We know that this shooter was already getting therapy for mental illness. And while getting, or at least attempting to get help, this shooter was able to go into 5 different gun stores in one day and purchase 7 guns, some of them assault weapons. We already have enough facts to do something. Kevin McCarthy is a spineless coward, is what he is. And what is Joe Biden doing? What he's always done. What Democrats have done for decades. Begging for Congress to act for reasonable gun reform. Begging, but they won't do it. Listen to what Steve Scalise said. And here's a guy who's another coward who was shot by an assault weapon. Steve Scalise was shot by a Looney Tune on a baseball field. Remember that? He almost died. So what is Scalise saying? If anybody should have empathy for those that are killed or victims of gun violence, you'd think it'd be Steve Scalise. But nope. Steve Scalise said, I really get angry when I see people try to politicize it for their own personal agenda, especially when we don't even know the facts. What a piece of human scum Steve Scalise is, as if politicizing it is wanting to do something about it, wanting to save lives. He sees that as politicizing this. No, the people on the right are politicizing this. They're the ones that are calling this person a trans terrorist.
Right.
They're the ones going after the trans community. Steve Scalise is saying that Democrats are trying to politicize this. Joe Biden is trying to politicize this by trying to pass gun reform and trying to ban assault weapons. That's not politicizing this. That's trying to save lives.
And find a solution.
You dumb idiot.
I don't understand how they don't think that trying to brand this as a trans community issue isn't a political issue. Everything where you're trying to remove your own personal responsibility and accountability from this situation is a trans issue.
All right, so here's what we're going to do.
Issue,
no question. So here's what we're going to do. Because my blood is boiling, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take some phone calls. The number to call if you want to be a part, we're going to take a break first. But we're going to take some phone calls at 702-221-7283. And then, again, let me give out that number again before we go to break. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Am I wrong on this? Am I wrong? Do you guys believe that Republicans shouldn't do anything? We shouldn't do anything as a country? We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. We'll take some calls on the other side. That number, 702-221-7283. Your calls on the other side. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino. Just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
It's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moss. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
As a 3-time international award-winning restaurant, Joe's New York Pizza uses only the freshest and best available ingredients. From giant slices of hand-tossed pie to calzones, strombolis, fingers, and wings, Joe's serves all your favorites. Stop in for a slice at one of their 2 Las Vegas locations at Paradise and Harmon or South Las Vegas Boulevard, or you can check out their menu at joesnewyorkpizzalv.com.
World-famous radio shopping show weekday on 1400 KSHP North Las Vegas and KSHP.com.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limit. It's Wednesday. So glad you could join us. We're talking about Republicans attacking the trans community. They don't seem to have any solutions for gun control. They want to seem to attack people for being trans. I don't get it, ladies and gentlemen, and we're taking your phone calls. The number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283 is the number to call. So let's get right to those phone calls. And let's start off with Eric, who's on line 4. Eric is on line 4. Hi, Eric. Thanks for calling in. Eric is on line 4. Hi, Eric. Oh, I think we just lost Eric. I think we just hung up on Eric. Okay, hold on a second, Eric. I think we're having issues with the phone line. Let's start from square one here. Eric, can you hear me? Are you there? Sorry about that. Yeah, we're going to raise your level, Eric, because I can barely hear you. Okay, Eric, I'm sorry. Go ahead, my man.
All right, 2 things real quick. One, why doesn't Biden just issue an executive order on some of these laws and things he wants to do? And how come when the Democrats have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they just don't make 10 new laws?
Because it has to, because they still need Republican votes. That's why. You can't. Joe Biden just can't do whatever he wants. It has to pass Congress, Senate, and you're right. There are some executive laws that Joe Biden might be able to pass, but for example, an assault weapons ban, he can't just press a button and say, "Hey, you know what? We're going to have an assault weapons ban. I'm gonna push this through." He just can't do that. He doesn't have the power to do it. He's got to get help from Republicans.
What about when the Democrats had all 3, like the presidency, the Senate, and the House? They can put through anything they want, anything they wanted to vote on. And didn't Biden have that his first year?
He did, but there's still some intricacies to that where you still have you have to have some bipartisanship, and some Republicans have to be able to sign on to certain bills to pass Congress. Even though they do have the House, they do have the Senate, and they do have the presidency, you still need cooperation from Republicans to get things done. I can go back and give you an example of Barack Obama. After the Sandy Hook shooting, Barack Obama wasn't able to pass legislation, not because the Democrats didn't want to, because they didn't have support from Republicans.
I thought if you owned all 3, you can.
Eric, I wish that was the case, my man. You know, I really do. I wish Joe Biden could just do whatever he wanted, because I trust him, and he's right when it comes to the gun control issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
well, it seemed like Trump was writing executive orders, pulling them out of his ass. You'd think he would be able to do something, just something.
You would think, Eric. I hear what you're saying, my man. I really do. But I'm just so frustrated with Republicans. They want to talk about, trans people, and they have this transphobia, but they don't want to talk about gun control, and that's what gets me so upset.
I gotcha.
Yeah, Eric, it's good to hear from you, my friend, and I appreciate your call, okay?
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Eric. Line 5, we're going to go to Herb. Herb is next. Hi, Herb. Thanks for calling in to Pushing the Limits. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, it's a real tragedy what happened. There's no doubt about it. I think anybody would have to agree with that, especially when there's kids involved. But Brian, you said something yesterday that I just want to ask you about. I want to ask you about it. When you were off because your sister unfortunately had passed, and when you came back to work on the radio, people called in the first several days, the first week, and people that agree with you and disagree with you, and they told you that they had thoughts and prayers were with you, and your family. And if I heard you correctly yesterday, you said that people that have thoughts and prayers can shove it up their ass.
Yeah, I did. Would you like to know
guess-
why I said that? Because
Well,
I don't
let me
think
just
you.
finish. Let me. I want to
no.
hear what you have to say, but I just want to finish what I'm saying. I just think that was the wrong thing to say, because they have thoughts and prayers for those families that lost those.
Okay, let me
the
explain,
people in
Herb.
the shooting.
Herb, let me explain. I'm specifically talking about the politicians that are lawmakers that say thoughts and prayers that do nothing. For example, if I had a politician who doesn't seem to do anything to address the drug problem in this country, and they called me up and they said thoughts and prayers about your sister, I would tell them to shove it. The people that I am talking about are the politicians like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, those types of politicians that get their A+ ratings from the NRA. Every single time there's a mass shooting, they say thoughts and prayers. Those are empty words because they don't act or do anything to try to end the gun violence in this country. Those are the people that I am telling to shove it. The policymakers and the politicians. If an everyday, ordinary human being like yourself, I would imagine you're not a politician, says, gosh, my heart goes out to the families of this shooting in Tennessee, I would not tell you to shove it. I am specifically talking about lawmakers that continue to do nothing when it comes to gun issues in this country. And every single time there's a mass shooting, they say thoughts and prayers. I hope you understand the distinction that I am trying to make.
Well, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
I don't agree with it necessarily.
What do you not agree with? What do you not agree with that I said? You think Republican lawmakers are doing enough to deal with the gun issues in this country? Is that what you disagree with me on?
Let me just tell you something. The massive number of gun violence in this country.
It's black on black crime, right? You're going to bring up black on black crime.
Now,
I can predict. What does it matter what the color of somebody's skin is? No, I'm not going to let you. What is it? Pot him down. I will let you finish in a moment. What does it matter what the color of somebody's skin is that commits a crime? I don't care whether they're white, black, gay, straight. We have too much gun violence in this country. Why do you want to focus on the color of somebody's skin instead of focusing on the real problem, which are guns? What do you care about the color of somebody's skin or whether they're trans or straight? Why don't you answer my question now as I bring you back on?
Okay. We talked about the shooting for the last 3 or 4 days. You have 6, 7, 8, 10 people a weekend killed across this country.
And your point?
Let me finish, Brian. You said you're gonna let me finish.
What's your point?
You have people, black and brown people killed every weekend.
You're right. What's your point?
People shot and killed.
Okay, what's your point?
Not by long guns, but if you were so concerned about those.
Hello? I didn't hang up on Herb. He hung up on himself. Herb, if you want to call back later, you're welcome to call back later. I did not disconnect Herb, but I can tell where he's going with that. He's trying to make it a racial issue when it has nothing to do with race. This issue has nothing to do with trans people. It has to do with gun violence. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. All right, let's go to line. I think this is line 3. We're going to go to line 6 now. Okay, who's on line 6? All right, let's go to Al. Al is next. What's up, Al?
Hey, Brian, I'm glad I caught you. I was hoping you'd continue the theme from yesterday, and I didn't catch your whole monologue, but I did catch, and I agree with you. I totally agree with you that we got to call both parties out on the when they're overlooking mental health. And I wanted to ask, in maybe one of your next segments, you can identify which bill the Republicans are not supporting, and which
every bill.
Democrats are.
Sure, the assault weapons bill. That would, for starters, red flag laws. That's another one, raising the age from 18 to 21.
Yeah, but those are guns. I'm talking about mental. Because one of the things that
public funding. Now, look at. Hold on. Let me try to answer your question now, because it's a good question. Public funding. Okay, when it comes to putting money on the table and funding for help when it comes to those that are mentally ill, it could be a public funded hospital, medication, getting the support that those that are mentally ill need. It could be the homeless. Republicans continue to strike down bills that Democrats try to put forth, funding those that are mentally ill. They don't put money into that system to help people that are mentally ill. Go ahead, Al.
Okay, I would. Hopefully, we can. I'm going to try to look up some bills. Maybe people on the internet can look up some bills. The reason this is really important, Brian, as a bipartisan, is right now is the time to put those bills on there because we're in legislation. And Tick Seegerbloom came up yesterday on the radio. Tick Seegerbloom is a commissioner. He's one of the most influential group, part of the most influential group here in Clark County, and he said that we need to fund more. We need more funding for mental health.
Well, people can say that, but Al, here's my problem. I hear a lot of people on the right when talking about gun control. They don't want to talk about guns.
No, Tick is
I understand. No, I know. I'm not a big Tick Seegerbloom fan, but I'm with you. I'm just keep making a general statement here, Al, and you can tell me whether you agree or not, okay? So the issue that I have is that many Republicans don't want to talk about gun control. They want to make blatant statements or blanket statements that, oh, we need to do a better job with those that are mentally ill. And my response to that is it's a cop-out for not wanting to put gun legislation and proper bills in order when it comes to gun control. And then they make blatant statements about those that are mentally ill, but yet they have no real solutions. They'll just say, well, we need to do a better job when those that are mentally ill, but they don't do anything. They don't do anything. They have no solutions.
Okay, I think I agree with you on that. I think it's a bipartisan. I think both sides have to do it. And I think now's the time to do it. But I think here in Nevada, because, I'm a staunch Republican, but I'm not big on Trump right now. I'm not big on anything going on in the U.S. Senate, in the U.S. I'm big on Nevada because, we can get 30 million Trumps or 30 million Bidens in. And you know what? Nothing's going to change in Nevada until we handle mental illness down here.
I agree. But how do we go about doing that? We have to fund it. And guess what?
We have to fund it, so we got to bring it to their attention.
But Al, I'm with you. But Al, I agree. But Al, going back to Tennessee, we had someone who was clearly mentally deranged. She was seeking help. Apparently, she was getting help. And while she was getting help, she was able to go into 5 different gun stores and purchase 7 guns. That is a gun issue, not necessarily a mental illness issue. We knew that this person, that is a gun issue. But I haven't heard one Republican talk about that. They want to focus on the fact that she was trans. When 0.03% of mass shootings in this country are done by those that are transgender. That is my problem with Republicans in your party today. They have no solutions. They want to attack the trans community. They want to make blatant statements that it's the mentally ill, but they have no solutions, no real solutions. Al, I'll give you the last word.
We're not focusing on solutions. And I know you got other guests. So I'm calling out both parties right now. And honestly, I think we got to get more funding, and we got to get the casinos to start paying their share of taxes to help us with the home.
Well, I don't disagree. Al, I don't disagree with you, my friend, and I do appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Okay, good to hear from you. Thank you, Al. 702-221-7283. I want to go to Gene on line 3. Hi, Gene. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I called a few days ago, and you'll probably hear from me on a regular basis. I watch YouTube all day today, and I get all the major networks and all that. And I put together why Audrey did this.
Okay.
From all the information I gathered this afternoon.
Yep.
They came out and said today that the parents would not accept her as a transgender. He was only a she, or he was only allowed to be a she. And by going and getting the mental health that she was getting, from what I gather, they were trying to convince her that she wasn't transgender. The school was against transgender.
Yeah.
So she got very angry and finally realized that no one was going to accept her for who she was.
Right. Well, that's very possible, Gene. Let me respond to that.
Well, I'll guarantee you when the manifesto comes out,
Sure.
I'm pretty smart on this stuff.
Okay.
And I'll guarantee you it's about the parents not supporting her or backing her up. It's about her mental health, getting mental health. They weren't doing it. And they were all trying to change her. And the school, a Christian school wasn't doing it.
So Gene, let me respond. Stay on the line with me here. You can keep her up. Stay on the line with me here. So Gene, let me respond to what you said. First of all, let me just say that makes plausible sense. That could very well be what happened. I don't doubt that for a moment. So there's a couple things I want to say about that. Republicans are not helping out at all because they are attacking the trans community. Obviously, even if that's the case, that doesn't justify going in there and killing innocent people. Obviously, we all agree on that. This was a deranged individual that had hate in her or his heart and killed innocent people. What I don't like are people are not focusing on the two real issues here. Gun control, how this person was mentally deranged and able to get their hands on guns, number one. And number two, the attacks on the trans community, people calling them, trans terrorists. These are mentally ill people. It's the indoctrination of our kids, where it could be the opposite, where maybe this person's parents, like you said, didn't support this person. The school didn't support this person, and the hate. And I'm not saying deservingly people needed to get killed. Of course, I would never make a statement like that. But maybe those who hold their transphobic hatred and those who hold their LGBTQ hatred, maybe they need to look in the mirror and stop hiding behind their bigotry and their religious bigotry, and maybe treat people as equals. Gene, that's what I say. What do you say?
Well, the thing of it is no one was accepting her for wanting to be Aiden, and because they weren't, I think she kind of gave up on the whole thing and got so angry about it. That's why this happened.
Very possible. Very possible. But even if that is the case,
I'll tell you what, I'll make you a bet on that. When the manifesto comes out, you'll see.
Sure. I listen, I don't doubt it. That makes sense to me, but it doesn't really change my opinions, which are as follows.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it
And
does.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. What I wish people would focus on, and Gene, I think we agree on this. Many of these people on the far right, again, attacking the trans community. They don't want to talk about gun control. We are obsessed with guns in this country. We have an obsession with guns in this country.
Yep.
And instead of focusing on the real issues, and part of that could be mental health, but instead of focusing on the real issues, they want to focus on attacks on the trans community and drag queens reading books to our children in libraries. And I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of these Republicans who have no solutions and they only make it worse.
They're worrying about the wrong issues.
Is people, some people, they get depressed and they're mentally unhealthy for a while, not forever, but for a while.
Right.
And if they can't get therapy, they go out and they get, they shoot other people and they kill themselves.
Yeah,
And
I
they
think
don't-
we can do both, Gene. Right? We can try to
I think
support
we
and
can, but
help.
The thing of it is who's going to finance it? You think that the Republicans are
No.
going to help?
There
Stand
you
up
go.
behind the bill to get
You-
more mental health or
You
anything?
nailed it. You nailed it
That's
right.
not going to happen.
You're absolutely right, and you nailed it, Gene. And that's what I talk about on this show. These Republicans want to say we need to do a better job in helping the mentally ill. Then when you look at every single bill that's attempted to be passed by Joe
They
Biden,
don't want to help
of
nobody.
course
They
they
don't want
don't.
to help our little kids. They're
No.
not pro-life.
Let's be very
None of
clear.
those things.
Let's be very clear. Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz care more about an A+ rating from the NRA than they do about these innocent children that were shot dead. Let's just call it for what it is. And their voting record, or lack thereof, proves that. Gene, it's always good to hear from you, and I do appreciate your call, okay?
Well, I just want to call out the Democrats. Not enough of them are getting out there and yelling out. The only ones that came out today were Maxwell Frost, James Groskin, McGovern, and then I don't know how to pronounce her name, but her name is Alyssa, Slopkin. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Slotkin, yeah. I
They're
agree.
the only Democrats coming out and saying stuff, and we need our Democrats to come out, and we need to hear from Biden. I know Biden can't change it, but we need him to come out and yell at these people.
I agree.
And give them back their own crap.
I agree. I agree with you 100%, Gene. Good to hear from you. I appreciate the phone call, and she's absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen. I want to hear from more Democrats, more aggressive. Joe Biden did talk the other day about really begging Republicans for an assault weapons ban. And, yeah, I agree with everything Gene just said. And that could be very plausible. Look, it could be very possible that, this trans woman,
Trans man, correct?
trans man, I apologize.
Yeah.
Yes, trans man. It could be very possible that this person wasn't getting any type of support from family, friends. But I do find it interesting that there was a cry for help earlier in the day where on Instagram, this shooter reached out to a friend on Instagram and said, I'm going to die today. That friend called law enforcement and did the right thing. And I don't want to blame law enforcement because I don't know how quickly they are capable of moving when it comes to a threat like that. And I don't know if lives could have been saved. But that certainly was a cry for help. And we usually see that with some of these mass shooters. We usually see in the days, weeks, days, and even hours before tragedy like that, they will usually contact somebody. For example, the Uvalde shooting. The shooter contacted somebody on social media that day and said, "I'm going to die today. I'm going to shoot up some people."
Yeah.
Very difficult to act extremely quick and swiftly, but I'm not going to blame law enforcement for this one because what can you do? The parents were interviewed, and apparently the parents didn't know that their child had, shouldn't say child, 27, 28-year-old, was hiding guns in the house. But I don't know if somebody has hatred in their heart and they're, crazy enough to kill innocent people, in this case, 9-year-old children. This person had a good support system or not in the home, whether that would have helped or not. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But here's what I do know, because I talk about these issues over and over and over again. A person who is mentally ill or a person who is seeking help or getting help that is mentally ill should not be allowed to go and do 5 different gun stores and purchase 7 guns.
Not at all.
And Kevin McCarthy wants all the facts to come out. Meanwhile, all of his Republican counterparts seem to be attacking the trans community.
What other facts do they want, though? You have messages on YouTube, on Instagram that were posted because of. I mean, I can actually read some of them for you. Literally, it says, so basically, that post I made on here about you, that was basically a suicide note. I'm planning to die today. This is not a joke. You'll probably hear about me on the news after I die. This is my last goodbye. I love you. See you again in another life. I'm not going to say the shooter's name. They also go on to say, I don't want to live. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to upset you or get your attention. I just need to die. I want to tell you first because you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen and known all my life. My family doesn't know what I'm about to do. One day this will all make more sense. I've left more than enough evidence behind, but something bad is about to happen. Please forgive me. Now, this is something that was sent by the shooter to their former middle school basketball teammate. And the Republicans are still saying they want facts. You have the facts that there are screenshots of these messages. These messages are real, and these are facts. You have the facts knowing that the shooter wanted to shoot somebody up and shoot the school up specifically because they had drawn out maps of the school, entryways and exitways. You also had writings, very descriptive writings about why they wanted to shoot up the school. And you still want facts? That makes no sense to me. I don't get how they want to live in a delusional world where nothing makes sense but their own politics while shouting out that everybody else is just about politics. It makes sense.
Well, I mean, you just look at some of the statements that I read on social media from Donald Trump Jr. and some of these right-wing buffoons on Twitter. And it really is, at least to me, it's very telling that they don't want to talk about the real issues. This is the state of the Republican Party today. We could be talking about health care. We could be talking about taxes. We could be talking about mental illness. We could be talking about gun control. The top priority list for Republicans today: drag queens reading books to kids, teachers indoctrinating our children, people attacking us for being religious, attacking Christians. These are, abortion. We want to take away a woman's right to choose. These are the top priorities for Republicans today. This is where the Republican Party is in. And as I've said before, and I say again, mostly those in the Democratic Party, they'll talk about equality a lot. They'll talk about treating those who might look different than you, or those who might have a sexuality different than yours, treating everybody the same as equals, helping the poor, trying to put some gun measures on the books. These are what Democrats talk about all the time. And I want to go back to a phone call that I received because to me it's so telling. Herb called in. And Herb has called into this show before. And I'm going after Republicans, lawmakers, for saying thoughts and prayers because I want them to act. And he tries to correlate that or make an analogy to, well, Brian, what about people that were calling into the show saying thoughts and prayers about your sister? Completely different circumstance. These are regular, everyday people that are compassionate people that are saying, I'm sorry for the loss of your sister. These Republican lawmakers are not passing any laws or regulations, and they have the power to do so to try to save lives. And that's why I say their thoughts and prayers, they can show them. But he doesn't understand that. And I explained that to him. I think anybody with an IQ over 20 would understand what I'm saying there. And then what does he talk about? And I before he even said it, I knew what he was going to say because that's what these MAGAs do. What about black on black crime? What about it? I don't care whether it's white on black crime, black on white crime, green versus blue crime. I don't care if it's trans crime, anti-trans crime. It's all gun violence. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. Heck, it doesn't even matter whether you're a MAGA supporter or a Biden supporter or a liberal or a righty. It doesn't matter. But if you listen to right-wing echo chamber radio today, all they will talk about is how this shooter was trans. All that matters is that guns are being used and gun violence is at a high point in this country, and it keeps getting worse. The bullets doesn't matter whether the bullets come from someone who's gay or straight, black or white. Doesn't matter. They still kill. But this guy calls into the show and he wants to talk about black on black gun violence. So what? What does it matter what the color of your skin is? We have a gun problem in this country. We have too many people that are victims at the hands of gun violence. I don't care what the color of your skin is. Listen, the shooter in Texas, El Paso was a MAGA supporter, right? Hate crime, right? He went after brown people. We don't know whether this is a hate crime or not. But I say, what does it matter? People are dead. Kids are dead. And we need to address the real issue, which is a gun problem in this country.
Right.
But they want to try to focus it on, and I say they, I'm talking about Republicans. They want to focus on trans. Oh, they're the threat to this country. No, trans people are not a threat to this country. Guns are. Guns are a threat. We have more guns than people in this country, but you'll never hear Republicans say that.
Now, Brian, so one thing that I want to make notice of is that not only are we talking about it on our radio show, Pushing Limits, but several different other people are talking about it. And now we have a mother who actually goes off on lawmakers after the Nashville School Shooting. And this is live on Fox News. I do want to play this for you. Take a listen and tell me what your thoughts are.
Hold on, lower that for a second. Okay, start over. Start that clip over because I think we have the YouTube feed that was playing over it.
I'm going to go ahead and start this clip
Okay,
over. Again, for those who are just joining us now, we're going to play an audio from Fox News where a mother is actually going off on lawmakers about the school shooting, and she wants answers. And this has been 2 days ago, and yet no one has talked about it yet. Take a listen. It's still playing. And now, again, this is Fox News. This is happening behind the anchor, the news reporter. And if you're watching the video, you see that the news reporter is pretty much trying to ignore the person. And yet and still, no one has actually made any statements about this.
So that woman, I'm very familiar with that because I talked about it the other day. That woman kind of took over that press conference in a live feed that was on Fox News. And she's done some interviews, and she's an advocate of proper gun legislation. And I applaud her for doing that. I really do. I applaud her for doing that. And it's it's unfortunate that Republicans want to talk about everything but real solutions to real issues in this country. They want to bitch and moan about inflation and gas prices. They want to complain about kids that are getting indoctrinated by our teachers. They want to talk about critical race theory. There are so many real issues in this country, and it appears to me that Republicans don't really have any solutions for any of the problems facing this country. And it's really, it's really unfortunate. All right, let's get back to the phone. 702-221-7283. Again, 702-221-7283. I want to go to JD next. JD is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, JD. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind? JD, are you there? Okay.
Can you hear me? Can
yes,
you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is the other JD, not the one from Utah.
Okay.
I wanted to bring up something I think maybe it's not being brought up yet. If I recall correctly, the Parkland shooter had about 48 or 50 visits from law enforcement, from mental people, from the school. I can't remember. I think they expelled him. One of the biggest problems in letting these people like this person buy these guns is HIPAA laws. And until they address the changing of the HIPAA laws, where law enforcement could do something to stop, sort of like a red flag, to stop someone like this from buying guns or making sure they don't have guns, that is one of the first steps I think that has to be handled.
So JD, I agree with you, and it's not sort of like a red flag law. That would be a red flag law. Guess which party is against red flag laws? Your party. Your party is against red flag laws.
Brian, I didn't want to get into political discussion.
Hold on, JD, hold on, hang on, stay on the line. Let's have a conversation. You can pot him back up. That's fine. So JD, I don't want to make it political either, but you're talking about something that sounds very reasonable to most people in this country, which is, and you're absolutely right, the Parkland shooter had issues with law enforcement or calls from law enforcement to his home.
Like 52 people.
So JD, you're right. Okay, we're on the same page. I agree with you. You're right. That would be a red flag law. For example, a law that would be put on the books that say, hey, you know what? If police are called out to a home 48 times, maybe that individual shouldn't be allowed to purchase a gun. That is a red.
My point is they would have to change the HIPAA laws that are in place regarding your privacy of your medical information.
Okay, but that's not just medical. I hear you. You're talking about HIPAA laws, but let's focus on red flag laws. There should be laws put in place that if there is a red flag law, if there is a situation where cops are called to a home multiple times, no matter what the issue is, maybe that person shouldn't be allowed to purchase a gun until they're evaluated mentally. And you say you don't want to make it political. Republicans are against red flag laws, JD. That's just a fact. I'm not making it political. That's a factual thing. If we're talking about laws that need to be put on the books.
There's always a caveat to the laws where somebody wants to put in an amendment to do something else. They want to go after this gun, or they want to go after that. And that's what causes the chaos. I'm a lot older than you, Brian, and I've gone through, I'm 79 years old. I've gone through times in this country when it was like Disneyland. When I went to school, we never even thought about this. I am sick. I am to my limit. I turn the news off after I hear the first blip because I don't want to see the names and the faces. There has to be something that has to be done. It's like if you're laying in bed and it's raining and your ceiling is leaking, what do you do?
All right, so let's start from square one. We agree. This is terrible. Something needs to be done. We're starting at a point where we agree. JD, Democrats have proposed this for decades, ever since Columbine, an assault weapons ban, red flag laws, raise the age from 18 to 21, for example, all sorts of different bills that I believe it wouldn't end all the gun violence in this country, but I think it would help. JD, Republicans have no solutions to the gun violence in this country. Even if you disagree with some of the policies that Democrats are trying to put forth, name me one policy that Republicans have put forth besides something ridiculous, which is more guns are the answer, which is absurd.
Let's go halfway. Let me go halfway with you. First of all, this is ongoing every week, every month. It goes on and gets more horrific every time. Now, number one, do you know, and I don't, are there metal detectors in every school?
No, there are not. You think we need to focus on metal detectors before assault weapons?
No. I'm asking a question.
They're not.
Okay. Number one, I would think there should be a metal detector. I mean, you go to ball games, you go to a lot of places.
Won't help.
I've gone to a lot of places.
Won't help. Here's why. Here's my opinion on why I disagree with you.
Let me finish.
Okay,
Please, let me finish.
You're talking about metal detectors. Okay. I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you. Okay.
Security guards.
Okay. Let me tell you why I disagree with you. If somebody has guns or a gun like an AR-15, they will shoot their way into a school through windows. If somebody is mentally deranged enough that they're willing to go into a school and kill a bunch of innocent children, a few metal detectors at the front door is not going to deter somebody from doing that. And I find it interesting that you say, let's go middle, let's go halfway. That's not going halfway at all. You want to keep all the guns out there on the streets, the AR-15s. You don't want to talk about red flag laws. You don't want to raise the age. That's not going halfway with me at all. I'm sorry, but we're not talking about, any of those topics. You want to talk about metal detectors? What about all the shootings in malls? What about the shooting here in Las Vegas? Would metal detectors have helped there?
Brian, I would need an hour to tell you the entire things that I have in my mind.
But the first thing you bring up is metal detectors?
Well, that's because I'm thinking of the front door, okay? That's the start.
So do all mass shooters go through the front door?
No, of course not.
Then why bring that up? All right, next. Okay, next. Go ahead.
Okay. There are many retired police and military that, and some places they're already doing it. In Tennessee, matter of fact, there's in a bad neighborhood, I believe, a bunch of black men are monitoring the schools in their district. Let people volunteer to protect the schools that want to go in, whether they want to be armed or unarmed, and let's do it in a way where these people are not going to be in a uniform. They're going to be in civilian clothes, and you broadcast it on TV and radio every day. Every school is going to have a certain amount of hidden people in the school, whether they're sweeping the floor or serving the food. They are going to be in civilian clothes. They may be armed if
all right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. In Parkland, there were those people. There were armed security guards. That didn't work. It also happened in Uvalde. There were a few.
Were they in uniform or were they in civilian clothes?
They were in uniform.
Okay, that's my point. That's a key point.
So you think what's going to end? So you think what's going to end, or at least lower the gun violence in schools, is we need to have people in civilian clothing that are not in law enforcement walking around with guns on school property. That's your idea of what will work.
It's part of it. It was reported this person had another list of places to go that were armed and they were hard targets, and that person did not go to those targets.
Here's where we disagree, JD. Here's where I think we fundamentally disagree. You can talk about all these issues like, what was the first issue you brought up? I'm trying to remember. You go through security or a metal detector, and you can talk about how we need to have more armed security in schools. Here's the bottom line, JD, and maybe this is where we disagree. We are a country that is infatuated with our guns. We have more guns than people in this country, and you can talk about all these other issues, but the bottom line here is that we have way too many guns. We are obsessed with our guns. And Democrats don't want to take your guns away. Democrats don't want to ban guns. They want to ban certain guns, like the guns that were used the other day in Tennessee, like the guns that were used in Las Vegas, like the guns that were used in Uvalde, like the guns that were used at Sandy Hook. They are assault weapons, and that is what Joe Biden is talking about, an assault weapons ban. Why don't you want to talk about that, but yet you want to talk about metal detectors? That's the part that I really don't understand, JD, as I bring you back up. Go ahead.
Brian, because I wanted to talk non-political. I wanted to talk about
I'm not bringing up anything political at all. I'm talking about solutions.
I wanted to talk about immediate measures that hopefully, if every person in this mental condition hopefully was aware that there were armed people in these schools.
Okay, but we're going backwards. We're going backwards again. I'm going to say something that has nothing to do with politics right now, and I don't think I said something that had to do with politics earlier. We're going backwards again. I understand you think there should be more security at schools. I understand you think metal detectors will help. What I am about to say has nothing to do with politics, and I'll repeat it again. We are a country that is obsessed with our guns. We have more guns than people. I believe that measures should be put in place to raise the age 18 to 21. I believe that if you're getting or seeking mental help, you shouldn't be allowed to purchase a gun. I believe there should be an assault weapon ban put in place that was put in place in the early 90s when gun violence was down. Nothing I just said is political. Why don't you want to address those issues? Why?
the whole point of my call was to try and come up with solutions to stop
So
kids
am
from being
I.
killed.
So am I. You don't think what I just said are some solutions that could help people from not getting killed?
But you see, Brian, all of those things have taken years and nothing has been happening.
And why?
Yet.
Why? Tell me why.
Let me finish. Whereas the things I'm suggesting you could do tomorrow, and then you could work on the laws.
You think
and
tomorrow
then
we
you
can
could
get
change?
you think tomorrow we could just get a bunch of armed people that are willing to work for free to be in every school in this country? That's crazy, JD. That's not going to happen.
Brian, it's been shown there are retired people that volunteer to do things.
So retired people, what type of retired people? People with no law enforcement background? You want them carrying guns in schools?
I already stated law enforcement and military retirees. That's what I stated earlier.
So you believe there would be 100,000 people tomorrow that would be willing to work for free, that actually have law enforcement background and training on how to use guns. Don't pay them $1, and you'll get people in every school across the country to work for free tomorrow. Is that what you're saying?
And you believe that nobody would do it?
I didn't say that nobody would do it. You're saying that we can have it in every school tomorrow, and I'm telling you that's ridiculous. That would never happen.
Well, when I said tomorrow, I meant to start the initiative to do it. Brian, give me a little credit for a little bit of intelligence. Everything we're talking about, we can't just wave a magic wand and say it's going to happen tomorrow.
Well, that's what you're doing. What I'm saying is,
I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're saying that we could have all these people that are trained on how to work guns, how to use guns, and former law enforcement officials that are willing to work for free, 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever in schools. That's waving a magic wand. And then you say, well, you know what? We've tried to, do an assault weapons ban, and that takes years. You know why it hasn't happened, JD? And I know this is something you're not willing to admit, because you're going to say, oh, Brian, you're making it political. The reason why we don't have an assault weapons ban, the reason why we don't have stronger red flag laws on the books in every state, the reason why Joe Biden can't pass anything now is because of Republicans, JD. I appreciate you calling in, but I know that's not something you want to admit. You come up with solutions, you come up with issues, that's fine, but you don't want to talk about what really is the issue here. And by the way, gun violence across the country, not just in schools, it's everywhere. It's in malls, it's on the streets, it's in public places, it's at concerts. It's not just schools. It's happening all over the country. And you don't want to address the bigger issue, which is Republicans don't want to pass reasonable gun legislation. JD, I appreciate the call. I need to get to another caller. Thank you for calling in. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, that number is 702-221-7283. Let's go to Carl. Carl is next. Hello, Carl.
Yeah, hey, gentlemen. I'll be pretty concise. I like to be quick. But you mentioned earlier about the Republicans voting against mental health bills and the funding of it. Well, I've had a background in that, so I know. But what bothers me is, why would they want to vote against themselves?
Well, you're right. No, you're right. Help me understand this. Okay, Carl, help me understand this. Like, I give JD fair time, and we have a conversation, and he brings up metal detectors, and he brings up, and by the way, last I checked, the biggest shooting in American history happened in Las Vegas outside of a hotel room. Metal detectors certainly wouldn't have helped there. Security, I don't think would have helped there. It is a gun problem in this country. Why is it that people like JD don't want to talk about the gun infatuation in this country? And then when I bring up reasons why bills haven't been passed, he says, well, let's not make it political. I mean, what else can I say here? I'm trying to be reasonable with people.
Well, I think that the problem is it is a gun situation, like I mentioned the other day, but it's also a mental problem also. Somebody who would do that with guns is mentally ill, obviously. Right. Any of these mass shootings, there's something definitely wrong with them. Definitely. They're not normal. They're far from normal.
Why is it though? Why is it though that everybody wants to, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people on the far right want to say, well, trans people aren't normal and this is a trans terrorist. They don't want to talk about gun control. They don't want to talk about the real issues, but they want to take it upon themselves to attack the trans community. Why is that?
One real quick thing. I've had arguments with people about who are gay, like on the far right, who are against gay people, and they should take treatment to try to change and all.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to explain. I think I explained it to you once before, but I'll explain it real quick again. that when a child is born, whether it's a male or a female, there are genes and chromosomes. Now, a male child, a baby, before it's born, can get an over amount of male chromosomes and genes and still come out a woman,
Right.
but have male tendencies, and vice versa, the other way around.
Well, if you're if you're transphobic or homophobic, chances are you don't want to listen to that because you don't want to know what a fact is. Carl, I got to get. Yeah, go ahead.
And to these religious people who say that it's a terrible thing, then they can say that God made a mistake
Exactly.
by making people like that.
I agree with you, Carl. Good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate the call. It's interesting, right? These people out there that are anti-gay, that think being gay is a sin. These people are there that are transphobic. When you call them out on their bigotry and hatred, they say, "Well, that's my religion tells me. It says it in the Bible. That's what my God tells me." No, you're just a bigot, and you use your religion as an excuse. You use your religion as a cop-out for your ignorance and for your hatred towards people who may or may be like you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Edward. Edward is next. What's up, Edward?
Hey, what's going on, Jamie? How you doing, sir?
This is Brian. What's going on, Edward?
I'm here, Edward. What's up, man?
Sorry.
That's
Thanks,
okay.
Edward.
Jamie's here too.
Thanks, Edward. I'm in the back today.
Yep.
Hey, it looks like you're getting all the heaters, all the callers heated up, man. But I know I called in yesterday, and I hate to say this, but I really think the shootings will never stop. And I'm sorry to say that, but they're like bolts of lightning. We don't know when they're going to happen, but they're going to happen. And I don't think there's a way we can prevent all this.
Okay, so here's what I say to that. We can't put our arms in the air and say shootings are going to happen, bad people are going to commit crimes, and there's nothing we can do. I completely disagree with you. There are things that we can do that will not end all the gun violence in this country. That I agree with. But there are things that we can implement that will make it safer. Let's get illegal guns off the streets. What I mean by that is let's make it more, I guess you could say, punishable if you sell an illegal gun. That should be mandatory jail sentence. That's number one. When it comes to mentally ill, if you are under any type of psychiatric evaluation or any type of health like this shooter was clearly going through in Tennessee, you cannot be legally allowed to purchase a gun. That's number two. We need to have legitimate red flag laws put on the books that are enforced in every state in this country. That's number three. Up the age from 18 to 21. That's number four. I also believe, and this is the most important one in my opinion, an assault weapons ban. Weapons of war should not be used by everyday citizens. You don't need an AR-15 to defend yourself in a home invasion. You have the right to bear arms. You don't have the right to have a missile. You don't have a right to have a bazooka, and you shouldn't have a right to use a weapon that is only used in war for one reason and one reason only, to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time. I personally believe, Edward, that if we implemented even 2 or 3 of those things, that I guarantee you gun violence would be dropping.
Let me ask you, do you think maybe every 20, 30, 40 years we should go sit down, go to the Constitution, and maybe rewrite or rephrase a few things so we keep up to date with what's going on?
I wouldn't have a problem with that. The reason why I wouldn't have a problem with that is because times change, people change. Heck, you could own people back then. You had muskets back then. Times change, people change. I'd like to think we are getting better as a human society for the good. But yes, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. We need reasonable things, reasonable laws put on the books. And, some people say, well, we have the right to bear arms. Well, you really can't own machine guns in this country. You can't have a bazooka or a tanker. I don't think you should also be allowed to have an AR-15. And when people tell you, well, pistols cause more deaths than AR-15s, well, that might be true. But it's not true when it comes to more than 5 people that die in a mass shooting. When you look at these school shootings and some of the biggest shootings in this country, I can tell you right now that the weapon of choice is an AR-15.
Well, let me ask you this then, Brian. If some psychopath starts killing people with a spoon, are we going to start banning spoons everywhere next?
Well, here's why I think that comment is completely ridiculous. Can you give me an example of more than 10 people dying from a spoon, or even one person that died from a spoon? The answer would be no. So that's why I look at
obesity. Eating too much?
Okay, so
on spoons?
Okay, so here's the difference. If you eat too much, the only person you can harm is yourself. You can't harm innocent people or other people. If Chris Christie or Donald Trump wants to eat a gallon of ice cream every day, they're only hurting themselves, right? I mean, the ones that I love are hurt by what I do, by my actions. Right, but here's the difference. It's their decision. If they want to eat unhealthy and not exercise every day, they have the constitutional right to do so, whereas the gun violence is affecting innocent people that do not want to die, right? There are people out there that don't care about their health, and then they pay the ultimate price. Okay, when we talk about an AR-15, we're not talking about somebody who just takes his or her life. We're talking about somebody like what took place in Tennessee, going into a school and killing innocent people. Drunk driving is another example, though. If you're a drunk driver, you can affect other people. That's why it's illegal to drive drunk, right? You kill innocent people. You're playing Russian roulette
But
with
are we
society.
banning Budweiser?
No, to be honest with you, sir, I think it would be a much safer society if alcohol was illegal, but it's not.
Well, I disagree with you on that one.
You don't think we'd be safer if alcohol was illegal?
Alcohol is awesome. I mean, the 18th and the 21st Amendment had outlawed it and then brought it back from prohibition.
Well, I wouldn't say it's awesome for the thousands and thousands of people that seem to die every month from drunk drivers.
I mean, we could, if you want to get technical, we could put warning labels on McDonald's, for high obesity and blood pressure.
But again, that only affects
hurting
you.
the youth.
But again, it only affects you. You're consuming the food. It doesn't affect other people. I'm talking about things that affect other people. Guns, AR-15s. You don't need an AR-15 to defend yourself, right? We're getting in the weeds here. You don't need a secondhand smoke was legal for many, many years until they found out that, hey, if you're the victim of secondhand smoke, you could also die of cancer. And then they found out about that. And then that's why in most restaurants, you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes, because you're not only harming yourself, you're harming others around you.
And Brian, I will say this, I will agree with you how you were talking yesterday about how, I don't care if you're gay, straight, bi, whatever, you know what I mean? I don't care. It's like, we need to quit thinking. I didn't like when people were bringing up this trans thing, they were a psychopath, period. You know what I mean? I don't care about your gender, race, or sexual orientation or any of that.
Right.
It was a psychopath that went nuts and hurt a lot of innocent people, and that sucked. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, I think we probably agree a lot more than we disagree. I appreciate the call, Edward.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, we agree more than we disagree. I appreciate the call, my friend. Stay away from McDonald's, okay?
Hey, Brian, Jamie, hey, you guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank
you guys
you.
have a great day. All right, man?
All right. Thanks, Edward. I appreciate the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. All right. Why don't we do this? I know that Jamie has some news stories of the day. I want to get to that right now because then we have a guest coming up here in a few minutes. So, Jamie, this has been Jamie's doing a little bit of everything today. He's playing the board. He's producer. He's co-host.
I'm sure everybody can see all the things I'm doing behind the screen. It has been a day, but hey, we're making it work. I'm super excited to be here.
Don't you have some? You have some news when it comes to a rapper by the name of Kanye West.
Oh yeah, and listen, that's why I'm super excited.
Let's talk about Kanye West now. Maybe we can get to some more stories later on, but let's talk about Kanye.
Get into it. So you all will actually never believe what Kanye West has said. So if you follow him on social media,
well, I mean, he does love Hitler, so nothing would really surprise me at this point.
That's a lot. And I don't know if you follow him on social media to keep up with his antics, but he doesn't go by Kanye West.
Wait, he's allowed to be on Twitter?
No, he's on Instagram.
Oh,
now.
Instagram. Okay.
Yeah. And someone
they banned him on Twitter.
Oh, they did. Did they take the ban away?
I think they did. I think they banned him. Yeah.
But they brought Donald Trump back.
They did. He's not using Twitter though.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to read specifically off of his Instagram for you all. And so Kanye West posted 5 days ago. Again, he goes by Ye now. He says, after he posted a picture of 21 Jump Street, stating, watching Jonah Hill in 21 Jump Street made me like Jewish people again. No one should take anger against one or two individuals and transform that into hatred towards millions of innocent people. No Christian can be labeled anti-Semite knowing Jesus is Jew. Thank you, Jonah Hill. I love you. Now, before you get into your comments, because I know you want to talk about it, but hold on. So again, this went viral, and the directors and producers went to Twitter and actually stated their opinion. It's kind of like, huh? So Jonah Hill obviously hadn't publicly responded to Ye's post at all, but the 21 Jump Street directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller reacted on their respective Twitter accounts and said, thanks for watching. That's what Miller wrote. And then Lord tweeted, laughter is the best medicine. Now, go ahead. I know you want to sound off, but that's the latest Kanye West news.
Yeah. Well, I would start off by saying Kanye West, I think we probably all could agree on this one. He's a very ignorant person. Yeah. He's very stupid. And people that are that ignorant that praise Adolf Hitler are not people that I have any credibility to or for. The fact that he would say all of a sudden now he likes Jewish people. I think most Jewish people prefer at this point, they don't want to be liked by Kanye West because he's a Hitler lover. He said many positive things about Adolf Hitler, a man responsible for killing 7 million plus Jewish people. So we don't need Kanye West to like us. Kanye West is a hateful individual. He's an anti-Semite. That's clear. He hates his own people. He hates his own black people. I mean, he's the one who said himself a few years back that he believed that black people wanted to be slaves. I mean, only a complete ignoramus would make a statement like that. Listen, I'm not into his music. If people out there want to call him a genius musician, that's fine, but he's not a genius human being in the grand scheme of things. He's very dumb. He's very ignorant. And the fact that he would say, oh, you know what? Forget about all the rabbis out there and the history of the Jewish people. I saw some Jonah Hill movie, and now all of a sudden that makes me want to like Jewish people, shows you the ignorance and the stupidity of Kanye West. He's a moron. Now, if he went on social media and said, man, was I wrong? I was wrong about Adolf Hitler. I'm so awful. The comments that I made, he hasn't done that. He's doubled down in his comments. If he said, I've spoken to rabbis, I've been a little bit off mentally lately, and my comments are deplorable towards the Jewish people. At least if he took steps and made an effort, then maybe I would listen. But this guy has so much hatred in his heart, and he's so ignorant. He doesn't understand history. He probably still has no understanding of what the Holocaust actually was.
Right.
He looks to Adolf Hitler, and he looks at Adolf Hitler as some sort of brand builder. I mean, he's pretty much said that on the Alex Jones show.
Right.
And the fact that he would watch a Jonah Hill movie, who, by the way, also happens to be Jewish. He would watch a Jonah Hill movie, and somehow that would change his mind on the Jewish people. And hey, maybe not as bad as I thought.
That was really dumb comment.
He's an idiot.
The correlation made no sense. You're watching a Jonah Hill. First of all, Jonah Hill does not speak for all Jewish people. On top of that, why single out one person and then try to use that as a way to get to the entire community? Wait, pause, because in your statement, you did say you can't use one individual to try to get to everybody. That makes no sense.
I don't think Kanye West is mentally ill. A lot of people say, well, there's something not right with him. No, he's just stupid. This is the way a stupid person acts. Kanye West is dumb. He's very stupid. He has no understanding of history. And usually when you find people that are hateful people, they could be racist. They could be white supremacists. They could be anti-Semitic. They could be Nazis, whatever. Many of these people are just very dumb. They're not educated people. Kanye West is not educated. He's very stupid. And he says things that are beyond hateful and ignorant, and it's cost him hundreds of millions of dollars too. I don't think he understands that either, truly the consequences of his words. Yes, we have freedom of speech, but there are always consequences to our actions and our words. I wonder what Jonah Hill would be saying today. I wonder what Jonah Hill is saying. Like, wow, the guy who hates people like me because I'm Jewish, he watched my movie and now he doesn't mind Jewish people. Like, I wonder if he's just laughing that off or if he's offended by that. Like, I don't think anybody in the Jewish community wants to be close to Kanye West these days.
I personally don't think that he actually even wants to deal with that issue. That's a really awkward position to be put in because you don't want to speak for a whole community. Yes, you can speak in a general sense, but this is like one of those situations where he's trying to use Jonah Hill to come back and use his celebrity status to say, I forgive you as a catalyst. That's weird. Don't say you watched one of my movies and say, now you like me. That had nothing to do with being Jewish.
Right.
Come on now.
Well, it's unfortunate, but what's done is done with Kanye West. He's lost a lot of people. And it's unfortunate, but Kanye needs to be educated. I don't think he wants to be educated by people of the Jewish faith. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take and I always like helping out people that help others. You might remember a man by the name of Kenny Guinn. He's our former governor of the great state of Nevada. Sadly, he passed away several years back. If I'm not mistaken, he fell off a ladder or something. It was a terrible accident. His grandson's going to be joining us on the line now, and his grandson is super cool. And he's going to be joining us next. So we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Blake Guinn. He's got a charity poker tournament that he's got going down at Red Rock Casino today, raising money for charity, and I'm going to be a part of it. Honored to be a part of it. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, Blake will be joining us next. When we come black.
Black. We come black.
Yeah, when we come
black. What are you trying to say?
I don't know. Maybe I'll be black when we come back. I don't know. Probably not. I'm very white. Anyway, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Greenview Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moss. He was Las Vegas' top DUI prosecutor for years. Prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moss representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, knowledge of DUI law to work for you. Give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey, everybody. It's Ryan Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. Completely located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurance and affordable cash pay prices. Office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. Please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
The National Atomic Testing Museum is a national science, history, and educational institution that tells the story of America's nuclear weapons testing program at the Nevada test site. Located at 755 East Flamingo Road, just east of Paradise, the museum offers immersive, interactive experts and guests of all ages. The museum is Smithsonian certified and open 7 days a week. For more information, visit nationalatomictestingmuseum.org. That's nationalatomictestingmuseum.org.
When you bring your vehicle to Star Auto Care for maintenance, you'll have a team of professionals at your service. Every one of our technicians has been factory trained and master status certified to ensure that you receive the highest quality and most effective service. Star Auto Care is located at 3540 East Tropicana Avenue, just east of Pecos. Star Auto Care is confident in their prices and will match any mechanic located within 20 miles. Bring your vehicle in today and let Star Auto Care give you the peace of mind you deserve when you service your car. Visit them online at starautocare.us.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at Sahara West Urgent Primary Care, located at 6125 West Sahara Avenue. You can get in and out of there in 20 minutes. They really took care of me. I promise they'll take care of you. No appointment needed, but if you want to give them a call, you can reach them at 702-248-0554. Also visit them online at SaharaWestUrgentCare.com. They take most insurances, and if you don't have insurance, it's only a $95 copayment. How can you beat that? Sahara West Urgent and Primary Care. Tell them that I sent you. So, I look at a lot of the former governors here in Las Vegas, and I think Sandoval was the last governor that I actually really liked because I thought he was able to reach across the aisle. He's a decent man. And then I think of Kenny Guinn, who was here years back, and just a horrible accident that he suffered, falling off of a ladder. I was so sad to hear about that years back, and really good governor. And guy joining us on the line right now does a lot of good things here in Las Vegas, raising money for charity. And Blake, his grandson, is holding a poker tournament that I'm going to honored to be a part of. It's going to be at Red Rock this afternoon, raising money for charity. And Blake joins us right now. Blake, good to see you. How are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me on today.
I'm doing
What's
good,
up,
Blake.
How you doing?
Doing good, my man. Well, first of all, before we get into maybe a little bit about your granddad, Talk to me about this poker tournament and this charity event you got going this afternoon at Red Rock.
Absolutely. So the Commercial Development League has been a golf league here, kind of a networking event for probably about a decade. And now we're kind of going to be moving into golf tournaments and poker tournaments to kind of help, one, bring the networking group, all together, but also to help raise money for our community. The community that we're going to be helping out today is the Ronald McDonald House. I am a part of that. I just became the fundraising chair for that event. So half of the proceeds from the winnings today will be going to the Ronald McDonald House, and that helps the sick children out. So that's what we're doing today.
Well, that's really cool. That's nice of you. So how does this thing get going? What time does it start? And if people want to sign up a little late, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can pay in person. It's at Red Rock Casino, the poker room. We're having a sponsored happy hour at 4:30 at the Sportsbook bar. So if you don't want to play poker, you just want to come have a drink and meet, say, Brian and Jamie, myself, just come out and network. That starts at 4:30. Come have a free drink on us. And then the tournament itself, starts at 5:30.
Yep.
It's a $100 buy-in. You can pay there, and it's free buy-ins for the first hour. So if you want to throw in $1,000, you keep losing. By all means, it all goes to a good charity.
That's great. If you want to go all in with Deuce 7 offsuit and you don't win and you're shocked, you could always give you another $100 and here you go. Here's
always buy in.
I love it. I love that. I remember your grandfather very well, and I was lucky enough to meet him several times. And when you think about his legacy and what he did for the state of Nevada as his grandson, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Education. Education was everything for him. His legacy's left in the Millennium Scholarship. That's essentially a scholarship for any high school student in the state of Nevada who graduates with at least a B average, can get a scholarship to go to an in-state tuition or institution here. And so I think that's something that's great. His big one was the Kenny Guinn scholarship, which also goes for a full ride scholarship to a teacher as long as they stay in the state. So trying to keep talent within the state and education, that was really his thing.
What do you think your grandfather would say today if he were here, which I wish he was? What do you think he would say, and how do you think he would feel about the state of politics today, not just locally, but nationally, how divided we are, the Trump era? What do you think he would say?
Yeah. I don't know. My grandfather was a very kind soul. He ruled.
I think we lost Blake for a little bit. Give him a second.
Did we lose Blake?
Yeah, he's most likely going to reconnect. He's channeling in today via FaceTime, so he probably lost us due to service. He's going to reconnect. There he is. He's back.
All right,
Blake,
he's back. Blake, you there?
Am I still there, guys? Or done?
Yeah, there you go.
Blake,
All right,
go right ahead.
do me a favor, Blake. Start over because we missed a lot of that. Go ahead.
Yep, you're live, Blake. We can hear you. You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I can't hear you guys. So sorry.
You can't hear us?
Uh-oh. All right, let's get Blake on the phone then.
Yeah, Blake, we're going to go ahead and give you a call. Okay?
Live radio. So this is we'll get Blake on the phone. Let's get him on the phone and we'll continue the interview there. I remember Blake's grandfather as someone who was from what I remember from him, and I was much younger at the time, but I remember Blake's grandfather as someone who was able to reach across the other side of the aisle. I remember Kenny Guinn as somebody who was a reasonable person, a reasonable Republican, a reasonable person that I believe we need more reasonable people in politics. All right. Do we have Blake?
My back?
All right. There you go, Blake. You're back.
I'm sorry about that, guys.
That's quite all right. Quite all right, my friend. Go right
Now
ahead. I think
it's so divisive. I get asked quite a bit whether or not I'm going to enter the political road. I really come from politics as just being middle of the road person. I think that's where a lot of the politics today is really missing. They're so far left, they're so far right, and no one really cares about what's happening in the inside, in the middle. I'm all about community, and it doesn't feel like politics really cares about the community. You guys did a great thing about guns today. I don't personally think, as I was talking with Jamie on YouTube yesterday, I don't think there's a solution because neither side really wants to solve the issue. There's too much money involved. You get your base driven up, you raise money. It's all about that. And so I don't know if there's a solution that actually makes sense on that stage. But
yeah, that's a tough topic. But I feel like if you're talking about money, maybe this is where I sound like a Democrat. I feel like a lot of Republicans are in the back pockets of the NRA, and I don't feel like
Sure.
Democrats are necessarily making money when they say we want an assault weapons ban, we want red flag laws. Now, you could argue that maybe some of them are pandering to get votes, but I don't know if Joe Biden says the other day, hey, I need help with Congress for an assault weapons ban. I don't know if that's financially beneficial to Democrats. I guess that's where I might disagree with you a little bit.
Blake, you're able to hear us, correct?
Okay,
All right, so
let's
go ahead
try.
and get Blake
Let's try to do what I asked
Yeah, we're
a
gonna get
couple
Blake on the
minutes
phone.
ago.
So we're gonna take him out right now.
Let's
get him on the phone.
let's try to do what I recommended. Let's try to call him because obviously there's something wrong with his internet feed. So let's give him a call. And the conversation was just starting to get good too, by the way. But we'll talk. By the way, if you're just joining, we're speaking with Blake Guinn. He is the grandson of the late Governor Kenny Guinn, who sadly passed away several years back in a terrible accident. I believe he was on a ladder. Just a horrible freak accident. But Kenny was at least in my opinion, was a very, very good governor. And we lost him way, way too soon. His grandson, Blake, is hosting a poker tournament at Red Rock Casino this afternoon. You show up at 4:30. You get to meet myself. You get to meet, of course, Blake, and you get to meet everyone else that's involved in this wonderful charity helping children. So please come by. It's at Red Rock Casino this afternoon, 4:30 to 5:30 happy hour. And then at 5:30, we are going to be starting this poker tournament. Maybe you get lucky. You get to sit next to yours truly in this poker tournament at Red Rock Casino. And it's, like I said, it's only $100. And I believe now we have Blake back on the line. Blake, can you hear me?
Brian, I'm so sorry. I'm going to blame my office internet here.
That is totally okay, my friend. No worries, my friend. So we were just talking about gun control, and I agree with you. I think at some point, money's involved, and that's why things can't get done. But I truly believe when Joe Biden talks about, and I'm not the biggest Joe Biden fan, as you know, but when he talks about an assault weapons ban, I don't think that helps him financially. I do believe he and many Democrats believe that would actually save lives.
Look, an assault weapon ban pop could, but what are we defining as assault weapons? I think that instead of banning weapons, I think personally you could do the mental health checks. And I don't have a problem with that. I've got plenty of guns that are all locked in the safe.
Mm-hmm.
My kids will learn how to shoot guns at the proper age. But I will say, I think that you could take it an extra step. If you want your CCW, you have to go through training. Why can't we just do that for everyone else?
I agree with you. And I talk about this a lot. I say, why is it when you have a car and people will say, well, that's not, you don't, the right to bear arms is very different. Owning a car is not, it's a privilege. But what I tell people is, well, cars can kill people. They kill a lot of people, sadly, in this country and across the world every day. But when you get your driver's license, you have to re-register your car. They do a health check on you, your eyesight, for example, what medical conditions you may or may not have. You have an instructor. You have to be able to drive a car reasonably well to get your driver's license. You don't have to do any of that stuff with guns, Blake, and I find that to be ridiculous.
Look, I think adding in the additional step of training does not hurt anything. It does not infringe upon anything. And actually, it would probably help because now people, instead of just going and buying a gun and not being educated on how to use it, they would actually go through proper training and education so they know how to actually be in a situation should that arise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
Now, Blake, I do want to ask you, though, you did say at the appropriate age, you do want to train your kids on how to use guns. Can you specify what is the appropriate age?
I don't know yet. My kids are 3.5 and 1. I haven't gone that far. I'm probably, late teens, I think would probably be appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't be with me. It would be with an instructor.
Okay.
Much like when my daughter learns how to play golf,
Right.
It's not going to be from me. It's going to be from an instructor.
Right.
I think that's the right way because now it's not just, hey, my daddy taught me this. It's, hey, an actual instructor did this. And so I think with young children, I think when you actually have an educator in front of them rather than a person that they know, a family member, I think they tend to listen a little bit better.
Right.
And they take that knowledge in a little bit more.
Right. And that's great. That's a great mindset to have, Blake. Now, I know you heard yesterday we were talking about the different rep that had pictures of his kids holding the guns and what that looked like in that picture. Can you tell us, how do you, because I know obviously you can't assume that just because you're a man, you act a certain way, but as a man, you know, you get excited about guns, you enjoy having it, and you want to pass it down to your kids. What's your thoughts on letting your kids even hold firearms at a young age?
No, I don't think that's smart. I think it sends a bad message. I don't care if that's, you know, they're deep down in the South or wherever that guy was, and it's just part of the culture. I don't think it's acceptable. And it's just from a moral standpoint. Why do my children need to be holding a gun in a photo, right? Yeah. When I'm dealing with work, I also keep politics out of it. And so I don't need people to know that I'm a gun-toting person. I also don't need them to know my political run. That's kind of how I operate my life. And so my kids will be the same.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. Again, if you're just joining us, well, his grandfather, the former, of course, governor of the great state of Nevada, Kenny Guinn. We're talking to Blake, talking a little bit about his grandfather, but also talking about a great charity poker tournament he's got at Red Rock Casino today that luckily I was invited to. Happy to be there, honored to be there at Red Rock Casino, 4:30 to 5:30. They're going to be doing like a happy hour, and then at 5:30 the cards are in the air. It's only $100, and 50% of all the proceeds going to charity, so you can't really beat that at all. I'm just curious, what do you think would Kenny say about the Donald Trump era? What would he have said about Donald Trump's presidency? And what would he have said maybe even about Steve Sisolak's governorship here?
You know, I know that this is before the Don kind of went and became, you know, a little bit crazy with his words. I know he always wanted a person in the White House that was a businessman, that wasn't in politics, as somebody who couldn't be controlled. I can tell you from a policy standpoint, he probably would have sided with him on a majority of things, but he wouldn't have publicly supported him. Now, my grandmother and family might think differently, but I just don't believe that my grandfather would have treated or wanted somebody he supported to treat others that way. Again, it's operating with decency and morality, and I just don't think, again, it's not Donald Trump style. But it's not politics style right now. And I just think there's so much hatred in the world right now. And yeah, I don't think he would have liked his rhetoric at all.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. What do you think you would have thought about Steve Sisolak and what he did here?
You know, I think Steve did some good things. I don't fully agree with all the COVID shutdowns. But, you know, Steve is a decent man. I've known him for a very long time. I think Steve did what he thought he was doing was correct at the time with the current science that he had. I don't know if my grandfather would have sided with all of his politics, but, you know, it's tough to say. When my grandfather was governor, it was a totally different time than it is now. Steve Sisolak is essentially having to govern almost 3 million people in this state, where my grandfather was basically governing 1 million. It was a totally different budget, totally different operating standards. Yeah. And back then, you know, both Republicans and Democrats worked to get across the aisle to actually get stuff done for our community,
right? Not
for political purposes.
Yeah,
and that's what's missing.
The one thing that I remember well is that, you know, he was willing to work with the other side. You know, I feel like today in politics, that's very rare, right? Right, Blake?
It's super rare. Yeah. You don't see it.
Yeah. And I don't
know. Don't see it.
Yeah. And I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I think we need to get more middle of the road, middle grounded people in office. I think that's a good start. I think we need younger people. We don't want to see, we need to have term limits. We don't want to see the same people in office 30 years, 40 years. It's absurd. But I think that would be certainly a good start. Hey, I want to give you an opportunity before we let you go, Blake, to talk a little bit about this event again. I always want to help, whether it be a Veterans in Politics event or helping our veterans or helping kids, whatever the case may be. I respect anybody like yourself that's raising money for charity in this city for a good cause. Give that out again. Give out the information again and how people can get involved just in a few hours here and raise money for charity in this poker tournament.
Thanks again, Brian.
Sure.
So Commercial Golf Development League is hosting a networking event today at Red Rock. Happy hour starts at 4:30. It's all sponsored. And cards drop at 5:30 until there's a winner. All the money that's raised is going to be a 50-50 split. first and second place will split 50% of it, and the rest of the 50% will go to the Ronald McDonald House of Southern Nevada. If you guys are looking, if there's anybody young out there, we are a part of the Red Shoe Society, which is the fundraising arm and young professional group of the Ronald McDonald House. I look forward to seeing anybody there today. And Brian, I'm so thankful that you are joining us this evening, and look forward to having a cocktail with you.
Of course. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard a rumor that in some of the sports books you can bet on who's going to win this tournament, and I'm the odds-on favorite. I don't know if that's true or not. But, I can't.
I know
speak to that.
there's some big players coming tonight.
All right, good. Well, listen, I appreciate.
Amazing event, guys.
Yes, absolutely, and Blake, I appreciate what you're doing and raising money for charity. I love people like you that are. They put action into words, and you're literally doing that today, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Blake, I appreciate you joining us. Look forward to seeing you a little bit later there at Red Rock. Okay, my man?
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
Tonight,
you too. Blake's a really good dude. And by the way, he might be helping my parents buy a home here. So
that's exciting.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah, he's
2 for 1.
He's a hotshot real estate guy. I didn't even know that about him. But his grandfather was a good man. And his grandfather reminded me in some ways of Ronald Reagan in that able to reach across the aisle, smart. God, what a horrific accident, though. I remember reading about that. I was so sad to hear. It's like, imagine that. Like, you're on a ladder, which, by the way, I never go on because I'm afraid of ladders. I'm afraid of heights. But, he's on a ladder. I think if memory serves me right, his granddad was working on his home, something on the roof or something. I don't remember exactly what happened. And it's just an accident. He just fell off the ladder and he hit his head. And he passed away. And it's just it's a freak accident. So, you got to remind yourselves that, life is short. Sadly, I learned that the hard way with my sister just 2 months ago. And, you cherish the moments you have and remember the moments you have with family members and make sure you tell them that you love them every day. And that's what I try to instill in myself with remembering my sister, who I obviously wish was still here. And I try to tell my parents that every day. And that's really all we could do. And it breaks my heart. And people say, Brian, why do you always have to be politics during a tragedy? Why don't listen, I hate to have to report on these shootings. I hate to have to talk about how these young children have lost their lives.
Right.
Innocent children who did nothing but were just in school learning. Innocent children. I hate to have to read their names. I get choked up. I get angry. I get emotional. Just like I hated to have to bring up, the 3,000 to 4,000 people at one point that were dying of COVID every day. And people made that political. It's the Democrats. It's a Democrat hoax. Attacks on Dr. Fauci, which are still going on today. Attacks on the CDC, on attacks on infectious disease experts across the country. When, so many, more than 1 million people died of COVID in this country. People are still dying. And it broke my heart then, and it breaks my heart now. And I hate to talk about loss of life at the hands of a nutty person, a crazy person. Notice how I didn't say a trans person, like so many people on the right want to point out. This was a crazy person that did the worst thing you could possibly do is take innocent lives, children, 3 adults and 3 children at the age of 9. And I'm sorry, but, having more security at schools is not going to end the gun violence in this country, and it's not going to do much good.
Not at all.
And it's, I don't know. I feel hopeless sometimes when I talk about these topics because there are reasonable people out there. There are some reasonable Republicans out there, but sadly, a lot of Republicans that are in office today are not reasonable. They're not reasonable. They're not willing to compromise. They think more guns are the answer. They continue to take pictures and put AR-15s in the hands of their 6 and 7-year-olds in Christmas photos, and they think that's normal. It's not. It's an obsession and infatuation with our guns. And it's, quite frankly, it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better until some Republicans find a conscience, which I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure they will. But please keep talking about Hunter Biden's laptop, because that's certainly more important. Keep talking about drag shows and drag queens reading books to our kids. It's more important to them.
Yeah.
The gaslighting. Yeah, it's more important.
Distraction. That's why.
Yeah, critical race theory is more important to these Republicans than actually doing something about gun violence in this country. That's all you need to know about the Republican Party today. And I don't know. Before we go, didn't you go to some? This is quite the transition. Didn't you go to some comedy
Now we're
slash.
getting into this.
What was it called again? Comedy.
It was a kinky comedy show.
Yeah, what was that like yesterday?
Honestly, it was a good time. I'm actually very grateful that I was invited out by Mistress K and Delilah and Carla. I had a good time. They made sure to treat me very well. When you get into the show, they start off with very aggressive and dominating tactics to really get you in and make you actually want to listen and sit
Did they
down.
touch you or grab you or anything?
So I actually did do the consent band
Oh, you
because I
did.
wanted to make sure to get the full experience. And it wasn't anything unnecessary or extra. It was kind of like a rub
Oh,
around
that's
the
unfortunate.
arm. Yeah, I mean, but also it's legal. And so, it was more so of like a make you feel good, like, arm rub or shoulder rub or, hey, how you doing? At one point, Mistress K did sit on my lap and I was like, oh, this is what's going on. But it was obviously again in a very joking way. Carla, which was the headliner, she did absolutely amazing.
Did you get aroused at any point during the show?
I plead the fifth. Because there are some times where Carla did some things. I was like, ooh, Carla.
Define doing things.
Well, she did a split on stage and said it was specifically for me.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh.
A split. That's
And
impressive.
And again, this is radio, so I can't say too much. You have to make sure you go to
I
the
got it.
show live
Understood.
in person.
Were there any young people there being indoctrinated?
No, not at all.
No, there weren't any young kids. Did they talk about critical race theory?
Not at all.
Oh, they didn't do that.
The biggest thing they
Okay.
did, though, was make sure that you consented. So if you did not consent.
So nobody was forced to be indoctrinated. Oh, wow.
Also, even
I'm just telling that to my Republican friends
Right.
just so they know.
And
yeah.
even if you did have the consent band on, they made
Right.
sure like you knew what that was for and like, hey, it's kind of dark in here. You sure you consent? So they made sure several
Good.
times, make sure we're as
Well, I'm
adults
glad.
making decisions.
I'm glad you had a good time. It sounds like a wonderful time. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, I enjoy myself.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Well, that's a wrap, folks. I mean, Jamie was doing a little bit of everything today. Co-host, producer, board op. I mean, you were
Today
just-
was woo!
Yeah, you were.
I'm sure they saw it today on the lives, but hey, I did my best, guys.
No, you did a good job. You did a good job. I appreciate that. All right. Well, tomorrow, same time, same place, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow's also the finals of the NIT in Las Vegas. Tonight, as I mentioned, I'm going to this charity poker event that I was invited to and helping to raise money for kids. I'm all for it, man. Hopefully no kids will be indoctrinated at the poker game tonight. I hope. No critical race theory. All right. We're going to take a 22-hour break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.
We out.